If weight management is one of your New Year goals, Quicksilver Scientific's GLP-1 amplifier can help. This science-backed formula supports metabolic balance, curbs cravings, and promotes healthy blood sugar levels, making it easier to stay consistent and in control. It helps give your body the boost it needs to keep you on track. Feel confident and energized this year with Quicksilver Scientific's GLP-1 amplifier. Get 10% off and free shipping at tryqs.com/podcast. Again, that's tryqs.com/podcast for 10% off and free shipping. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Altar Call MAFS. I'm your host, Tane, and we are back to recapping Couples Therapy Season 4, Episode 15. My co-host for this watch is Jenn. It's been a long time. Hi, Jenn. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I had to go back through my Instagram to figure out when did we last record. So it's been a minute, but I'm excited to be back. And you did such an awesome job. Again, I always tell you that I'm a super fan of your work. And I just listened to the episode that you did where you interviewed Belinda from MAFS. And I don't know, it was so good. So I'm excited. It's a very different tone. It's a very different tone from MAFS to couples therapy. And I was trying to figure out what it is. And I think it's just not funny. Like there's nothing funny in couples therapy. Like you can find the funny in MAFS and you can find the funny in like the challenge. You can find the funny in all the other stuff that you covered. But I'm like, there's really nothing funny in couples therapy.
Well, first, thank you. Thank you so much. I always say I need to hire you for my ego. But yeah, I think the difference is couples therapy is kind of like being the friend of on a housewife show. I know you don't watch those because we don't get to see your day-to-day personal lives and the funny part. We just get a retelling. Couples therapy is like one long confessional. We just hear you talk. And then the expert is like an actual expert that feels like it's about the issue we're trying to address and not creating a TV show. I don't know if I'm being too generous when I give couples therapy a pass when I say like it's the one reality show I think that doesn't feel like, hey, at the end of the day, we're still trying to make a TV show. It feels like we're actually tackling the couple's issues.
Yes. And some better than others. But yeah, like there's no, the editors, there's not a storyline necessarily. There kind of is, but there kind of isn't. But like there's not a through line necessarily where we wrap it up and there's no reunion. So it's like, where's the resolution? So yeah, it's a very different feel than some of the other stuff you covered.
Yeah. And I think that the thing about coming back, we're covering episode 15 today. And this episode reminded me that even though we live in a world where everyone thinks that therapy is a fix-all, it is not. Therapy is also a two-way street. You got to give just as you get. And sometimes there's no resolution, honestly. Like people think that it is. And all of this was covered in this episode because we begin the episode with Orna telling us about people when they come into therapy. And I'll get into that. Let me just get housekeeping out the way, guys. Just to remind you guys, patreon.com/AltarCallMAFS. you can find bonus episodes over there. I'm covering the challenge. I covered 90 Day, and there's some documentaries. You can check that out, and you can get ad-free episodes on the Patreon. Also, as the holidays come around, if you like what you hear and you want to share it with your friends, you can gift your friends a Patreon. And you get a discount, I think, if you buy an annual membership, but there's also a monthly membership over there, and you can check that out. And also, you can check out my Love is Blind Italy recap on the regular feed. Okay, that's out the way. So Orna tells us that most people, when they come into therapy, tell themselves a story that helps them make sense of their life. And the therapist is recruited to be the witness for that narrative that they have in their mind. And they want them to pull threads on the incompatible so that the narrative can change. And that can be hard for people and too difficult. And I'm like, oh, we are starting serious
Hey, you know,
with this episode,
right?
but it's true. But it's true. People, someone can say, I am going to therapy, but what are you telling your therapist?
Exactly. And it is another relationship. It's another relationship where you're showing up with who you are, and you're trying to put your best foot forward because this person is new to you and you want them to think of you fondly. But yeah, it takes a minute to kind of get past that I want to win you over to I need to tell the truth in order for us to get to some resolution. So I could see
Yeah.
how that could be a challenge.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've heard this phenomenon where you have someone who comes over to clean your house. And even though that's what they're coming over to do, you clean up the house
Yeah.
first and then
Yep.
just start getting it clean so that they don't judge you for it, even though they're coming over to clean.
Yep.
It's just human nature. No
Yep.
one wants anyone to see the ugly
Yes. My
in
husband
them.
just teased me about this. I went to the dentist to get my teeth cleaned, and I went there straight from dinner, and he's like, "You're not going to brush your teeth first?" I'm like, "No, I'm getting a cleaning. Why would I brush my teeth before my cleaning?" They know I eat food. And so, yes, I
Yeah.
feel what you're saying.
Yeah. So we see Orna with her peers, and I'm like, we're getting a lot of Orna, like especially at the beginning. And we see like she's with her peers. It's a very scant group. It's just like 5 of them. And then very casually, Orna just says, yeah, so Boris and Jessica left therapy. I'm like, wait, what? We saw it coming kind of, but
I was going to say
what?
you didn't cheer a little, like there's not a little part of you that was like, "Oh, thank goodness."
No, because all I kept thinking was, how is Jessica going to get through this?
Yeah.
Because I mean, she didn't get Orna didn't get a personal explanation. Someone asked, like, was it him or was it both? And Orna is like, yeah, I'm definitely sure that it was Boris. Like,
Yeah.
because of course it was Boris. So my only thought, I'm not gonna lie, was more like, how is Jessica gonna get through this? I hope Jessica gets to leave him, but I hope she doesn't stay out of guilt or coercion or whatever. But that was my only thought. And that's, the downside of couples therapy is we don't get, like you said, a reunion or what's happening. So maybe we'll get like how they do the written updates on what's going on. But I just want to know how she's going to navigate. This woman is having a physical manifestation of her stress
Yeah.
with a therapist. So without a therapist, what's going to happen? And I know I just said this, maybe they're one of those people who function better without a therapist, but Boris is a special being. So that was my
Yeah,
thought.
special. And I'm wondering too, and I'm hoping for Jessica again, it might be one of those things where I don't know if you have a friend where they come to you because their relationship's not going well and they don't need you to solve it, but they just need you to bounce ideas off of just to confirm, like they just need to hear it out loud. And once they hear it out loud, they're like, okay, this is what it is. So maybe her saying it out loud and her having, because I don't think Orna necessarily reinforced what she was feeling, but she definitely was another mirror to bounce off of. Like, this is Boris doesn't just act like this with me, he acts like this with other people. So maybe this isn't a me thing that I need to take on. This is a him thing, and I can separate myself from him. So maybe going to therapy gave her that clarity. I'm hoping.
Yeah, that's
I'm
what we're
hoping.
hoping.
We're hoping.
Um, Another peer of Orna wonders what the breaking point was for him. And Orna says she tried, but she thinks that at the very least, Jessica was happy that someone else was seeing what she was dealing with. And another says, but to leave a therapy that's not working is sometimes the right thing to do. And Honor says, when something like this happens, when the patients, decide to stop coming, she does a lot of self-examination. What could she have done wrong? And in hindsight, she thinks that she probably would have gone slower. And that made me think about the fact, in maths where it's 8 weeks. For this, what is the time period? We're going to get into it, but I think for Kyle and Mondo, they might have mentioned something about we've been coming for 3 months.
Yeah, I caught that too.
So I don't know what the entirety is, but it would be interesting to see if she feels like, oh, there's a deadline, so I have to fit everything in, or if it's just, free flowing. I don't know.
I don't know. Did you feel that way? I kind of felt like with Boris, though, you can't, if you give him more time, he's just going to sit there and build this story and this narration about why he's the victim and why he's, oh, poor me. And I feel like maybe they needed that. They've been married for how long? You've had that time. It's time to cut the crap and get to the point. So I don't know if there was ever going to be a timeline that was going to work for him unless, that timeline involved Orna saying, you're perfect, you're wonderful, it's Jessica, it's fine.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Because, the whole dissonance that they had is the fact that she was kind of not completely siding with Boris. And that would have been the only thing that changed anything. And Orna cannot completely side with Boris. She has to bring it out, be as neutral as possible, but also point out different things for the benefit of both of them, not just Boris. And Boris is one of those people who comes in like, she's a problem, she needs to change. Yeah, I know I have flaws, but I'm only human, but she needs to change, she needs to do this, I need this, just sucking up all the air in the room. So I know she says in hindsight she could have gone slower, but honestly, this might have been a DOA. And this might have also been a situation where, this sounds really horrible, but my friend and I were talking in relation to something like with even on maths. When they meet with the experts, sometimes when you have these men who have these ideas and are just, for lack of a better word, misogynistic, you need to have a male expert come in. Not because that's what's supposed to happen, but it just sets the tone for them to even listen. Because deep down, subconsciously or not, it's like if it's a woman, they're already going to be like, of course you're going to side with the woman, or of course, even if you're not, that's just their impression. They're not just going to listen. So maybe they will fare better with a male therapist. Who knows? And Honor is great, but the thing about therapy is just you have to have a fit. So maybe it just wasn't a good fit. Not because she's terrible, it just wasn't a fit.
And yeah, and I think that's a really good point. I'd be curious to see, because I think with your interview with Belinda, did they say they never met with Pastor Cal, or they didn't meet Pastor Cal alone with Chad? And maybe that for Chad would have been a good kind of hey bro, what are you doing? And maybe having somebody talk to him on a level that he could endure versus this is another woman and what do they know, and I'm smarter than women and they're emotional, blah 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 blah. So yeah, maybe a male therapist could have had a much different impact on Boris. That's a good insight.
Yeah. And that's exactly the conversation I was having with my friend, actually, was the whole Chad meeting with Pascal. But the thing is, Pascal cannot carry the burden alone, because even with my interview with Brittany, she asked for Pascal. So if everyone wants Pascal, he can't be the only one that would do everything. So I can see why. But yes, it's just, what are you going to do? Even with Brennan, because it was Dr. Pia. Would it have been different if it was Pascal? I don't know,
They're getting divorced, so who knows?
Okay. By the way, I don't know. Orna has been making the rounds, and I feel like more people are discovering Orna, and then Orna is going to become this superstar. Is that going to change things? You were the one who sent it to me, I think, the Michelle Obama podcast.
I don't think that was me, but
oh, okay.
Wait, was it me? Maybe.
Yeah, you sent me. Okay.
But she does, and maybe I love Orna, so I go down a rabbit hole and I listen to her on a bunch of podcasts, but she does a really good job she doesn't really reveal a lot about herself. So she's making the rounds, but especially on like Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard. She really kind
Mhm.
of, because wants to know everything about everybody. And so she did a good
Oh,
job of
okay.
keeping that boundary of, well, instead of answering the question, she's like, well, why do you feel like you need to know that? And because Dax is who he is, it sent him off on a tangent that took the attention off of
Oh,
her. So she does a good job, even though she's making the rounds, where she doesn't reveal a lot about herself. She
okay.
really does keep it on the show and on the work and on the patients.
Okay, they got a right person. I wonder if
Yeah.
at some point they're gonna add a second person
You think?
and just
Maybe
kind of
maybe a
switch
man.
it
And I
up.
think, yeah, it would have to be a real special kind of guy. I'd be curious. I mean, there's all kinds of therapists for all kinds of people.
Yeah,
But yeah, it'd be interesting to see who they got.
yeah. Okay, diving into the couples because now we're only going to have three couples to fill up the episode because we got a lot of honor for this one. But we say hello to Rod and Allison. I feel like we haven't seen them in a while, but the sweater is back. We have the sequins for sleeves, and I'm just Allison. Come on,
But
she
this is the
is tell.
softer Allison. It's a softer Allison because it was a
Sure,
Disney one. It had a Mickey Mouse on it. It was a softer sparkly sweater.
sure. She's telling Orna that she is present in a lot of how she deals with things now. Rod just asked, like, where does your anger come from? And honestly, I'm like, this cannot be the first time you are asking because her anger is so loud and so
Mm-hmm.
present and so quick. It just
Yep.
comes from nowhere. So it feels like it sits in her diaphragm waiting to be released. And he's like, where does it come from? And she's like, my dad. It feels like she's even annoyed. Like, why are you asking this? Do you not know the answer? And she was like, her dad used to come home and scream and then come back and act like nothing happened. And Rod is like, oh, sort of like Jekyll and Hyde. And oh my God, she lost it. And she's like, that makes me so angry. Why would you say that? And Orna does the look. Orna is like, instead of getting angry, can you just explain why that makes you so angry? She says when they first got together, Rod used to say that to her a lot. And now that she's aware of it and what's going on, it is hurtful and it doesn't feel good to her. And then Orna, it's kind of like positive reinforcement for a kid. Orna's like, that's good. You did good. That was good right there. I was like, we are complimenting someone for explaining why they're angry, but you know what? It works. That's good.
It
It doesn't come
works.
natural. Go
It
ahead.
totally works because and I feel like, and it's something that I noticed later, that when Allison feels like she does something good, she turns to Orna waiting for her reinforcement. It's so funny to see how that dynamic has changed, and because she's been confronted about this behavior, and when she checks it, she wants to be patted on the head for it. And maybe that's
Yeah.
the challenge that she has with Rod, is that Rod's not patting her on the head when she does calm herself down, or when she recognizes that she does it. She wants a little treat for it. She wants
Yeah.
to be told, good job, sparkly sweater.
I get it, but that makes me worried for them when they stop therapy with Orna.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. I don't know. When you stop with Orna, maybe, okay, you can't afford Orna because she's expensive. Do you continue with someone else? Do you have to build that relationship with someone else? Do you start over with someone else because this person doesn't know you? They don't know all the work you have done, with Orna. So it's just, is she really going to snap back? Because yes, she's on good behavior, but we also see how easily she was able to go back to the
Yeah.
anger. Like
Yeah.
5 seconds after saying, oh, I'm doing this, she went straight to it. And
Well, the point is that they learn the tools, and so if Rod is paying attention, or even Orna has to tell Rod, like, hey, you notice that when I praise her, she calms down. Maybe you could do that too. So I think the goal of this is that they learn tools that work. Like, we're not trying to change Allison necessarily, but there's ways that you can work with her that will give you the reaction that you want, or that will like minimize the situation. And you've got to figure out what those tools are. You're not going to turn Alice into a totally different person, but to get the outcome that you want, if you want her to calm down, this is one way to do it. So that's really the goal. And I don't know if Orna has to say, hey Rod, you notice when I do this, or if Rod's supposed to pick up on it on his own.
but that's what I'm saying. Yes, they're supposed to get the tools, but it feels like they don't practice the tools unless they're in front of Orna.
Right.
You're supposed
That's
to
true.
practice it outside so that it becomes habit and you become used to it. But it feels
Mm-hmm.
like once they're not with her, it's like, okay, anything goes. And either way, we're just going to talk about it with Orna and then she'll help us. So that's where I'm. And then it's like Orna is not there when she does it, if she does it outside of her to look at her for praise.
Mm-hmm.
So Rod is still a work in progress. So Rod says, like, yeah, you seem to interrupt less, which used to be a passion of yours. And that made me laugh so loud because that what an interesting way to phrase that. He says that he's more involved in the conversation and he doesn't do as much stepping back. And they ask what he wants. Oh no, Allison is one who says this. Like she wants to respect him and try to not fix him. And then Rod is like, I'm not broken. That's Rod
Oh,
stepping into the conversation. He's not stepping
yeah.
back. So that's good, I think. And she's like, I don't think you're broken. And he's like, you just said that. Like you're trying to fix me. If I'm not broken, like what are you trying to fix then? I think he's right in this instance, but she spoke too fast as usual. And
Mm-hmm.
Arna is like, okay, good place to pause, time out, because then it means what images are you sending to each other? So Allison describes like how like there are little things that when she goes to bed, like last night, he gave her a kiss before bed and it just made her calmer. And she realizes that she needs to stop being overbearing. And it was just easier for her to bark at him than to deal with it. Jen, I this made me realize how deep in the trenches they were because we are talking about a kiss before bed. This
Mm-hmm.
means something that I'm thinking is the norm. It's not a big deal. It's such a big deal to her because it means she's not getting it. They're that disconnected
Mm-hmm.
that a kiss before bed is making her calm and just gives so much clarity that Allison is just acting out. When a kid is a
Yes.
bad kid because they just want that attention, Allison
Mm-hmm.
is trying to get a reaction out of Rod. And just her just saying that gave me so much perspective into this relationship that she's just crying out for her husband. Like what you just said,
Mm-hmm.
like give me words of affirmation to just see her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow.
That's
Yeah.
it.
That and it's so crazy sometimes, not crazy, I don't want to use that word when we're talking about therapy, but it's interesting and insightful to realize that the fix to some relationship problems are really small. Like all you
Yeah.
got to do is kiss her, and it might be one of those things where, again, bringing it back to Chad and Belinda, like when Chad was on the couch at night and Belinda was in bed by herself, like could have. I mean, they had other issues, but is that the issue with Rod and Allison, where Allison's in bed and Rod is like, "Oh, great, she's the witch has gone to bed. Let me get some peace and be by myself and whatever." And maybe they've been apart and she's been craving connection and it's shouting at him like, connect with me, and he's like, ooh, you're barking at me, I don't want to connect with you. And so when with her calm down, he can be that, he's softer, so or she's softer, so he can be softer too. It was really really interesting.
Yeah. So Orna asked a very good question. Like when you were growing up, who did you talk to? And she's asking Rod. And Rod says he spoke more to his mom. He says that his dad was there, but his dad was reserved and quiet, and that used to infuriate his mom. And I tell you, I was having a conversation with my friend about this. I'm like, 95%, if not 98% of who we are is formed in our childhood. And it
Mm-hmm.
is so amazing how we repeat patterns. And
Yep.
they show up in ways that we don't even recognize. Sometimes it's not even obvious. But at the end of the day, it is what we see that we are going to repeat, not what we are told. And the fact that Rod just grew up to be his dad and also got a wife who is just like his mom, who's
Yeah.
just infuriated. And for him not to even recognize the patterns and be like, okay, I don't want this to happen. If this annoyed mom, can't you see how it annoys Allison?
Right. And
You
and
know?
and he, again, I think it said that he spent more time with his mom, or he whatever, not that he had a favorite parent, but he seemed to attach to his mom more than his dad. So that makes sense that he would pick an Allison, but it doesn't make sense that he would become his dad. Like you became the thing that made your mom anxious? Why would you become that partner when you saw that made her spin out? Is the
Because
partner that doesn't talk to her? Like, what? So,
be-
and that's what therapy's for.
it's like patterns. Like you
Yeah.
hear, look, I give the example of Chris Brown. Chris Brown talks about his mom growing up, how his dad used to hit his mom and he used to be so terrible. And he grew up and what happens?
Yep.
You know it's terrible. And it's almost like, is it a force that can be controlled that you just have to? I don't know. I would like to.
Fall is all about cozy comforts, and with Hero Bread, you can enjoy all your favorites and still hit your health goals. From breakfast bagels and meal prepped enchiladas to mouth-watering burgers and cheesy noodles. You won't believe Hero Bread's options have 0 to 5 grams net carbs and are high fiber from the taste and texture. And right now, Hero Bread is offering 10% off your order. Go to hero.co and use code FALL25 at checkout. That's FALL25 at hero.co. All figures are per serving of Hero Bread. Contains 2 to 18 grams of fat per serving. See the product nutrition panels on hero.co for more information.
Think not, but it's just kind of crazy to me that they're here in therapy, they're doing all these things. And also it's kind of crazy to me that it's just coming out in this episode.
Right. And I
That this is
wondered
happening.
too, if like are we seeing things in order? Like, was this early on or was this later? That's the part that we don't know with editing. But and that's the thing too with Chris Brown with Rod is, okay, you know what this thing isn't good, but you haven't seen an alternative to replace it with. You know that like my dad being abusive or my dad being held back
Quiet.
isn't good, but I don't know how to not hit when I'm angry. I don't know how to not speak when I'm anxious. So that's the alternative is I don't know the alternative. I haven't seen the alternative. I know that this isn't good, but I haven't seen what good looks like. So I don't know how to fix it.
I might disagree with you on that.
Of course.
Because
this is why we checked.
There's a lot. We also are blessed or cursed to live in a world where there's a lot of information, right? And for something that is as obvious as if you grew up in violence and you know that you're not supposed to hit, you know what the alternative is. I don't, whether you're doing it or not, that's a choice for you not to. If you know you're getting angry, you just walk out. Your legs work. You know how to walk away. That's an alternative. I don't think you need to be taught that. I think you just need to apply that. So for you not to want to apply that, that's you choosing, for lack of a better word, that. Because for Rod, and I think we've said this before where I said like, Rod seems like, oh, he's a good guy and he's calm and he's this, but he's doing his own damage in his own way. And for you not to get engaged, that's a cop-out. That's you just not wanting to face what you have to do and do the work. So you may not know how to approach the alternative, but you know what the alternative is. And it's not that hard to just open your mouth and talk. And then even if you're having trouble, open your mouth and say that. Like, I want to get involved, but right now I really don't even know what to say. I'm going through this, talk through the steps with Allison. I think Allison would just be grateful. Like, you know what? You're not saying what I want to hear, but you're talking and you're being involved and you're walking me and bringing me in through that process. So I don't know. Yeah, that's the part. It's just like when someone doesn't do anything, that's a choice. When you don't say anything, that's a choice too. That's an answer, for that.
And Rod's not innocent. I'm not suggesting that he is, because when you call somebody Jekyll and Hyde, like you're trying to poke the bear. You're not, nobody goes, "Ooh, Jekyll and Hyde, I love that for me." Like that's not, nobody ever has that reaction to that. So he certainly does poke the bear. And maybe that's his level of, hey, I need her anxious because I know what to do with this, or I need her anxious because I know that she cares. And that's stuff that he's got to figure out. Like, how do I know that she cares without her yelling? Because I don't like it, but I understand it.
Yes, because it's home to him. I remember what's the thing I saw this week? Like, you tend to marry your unhealed trauma from childhood or something, because it's what is familiar to you. The most horrible things could be the most horrible thing and you want the opposite, but at the end of the day, that's what's familiar to you and that's what you run towards. So he's like, I got to keep this. I got to keep her angry because at least I know what to do. I can retreat and be like, hey, I just don't want to engage, but it's because you don't want to deal. Okay, so Orna asked him, "How do you feel? How did you feel when you watched, your parents' dynamic?" And he said he felt sad. And finally, we get clarification because we've been wondering where he's from. That his dad is American and his mom is from London. And
Mhm.
his dad lived in, I want to say, California, and sometimes they came around. And he says they eventually divorced. So I think his mom got custody of him, which is where that accent that we hear is probably because he grew up or spent more time in London. He specifically remembers a big blow up where he actually ran out the house, and he was relieved when, they got divorced. And then he just casually throws in there again, like, our daughter has done that sometimes. I'm like, patterns, man.
Right. What?
Patterns,
Make
man.
make the connection.
It's crazy because you've been through it. You know how
Right.
you felt when you ran out the house. Why are you making your daughter go through that? Because once it happens once, twice, you can't take that back. Now it's just part of their upbringing and part of the thing that's going to make them sit on Orna 2.0's couch and tell the same story.
True.
So we end their segments by seeing pictures of them young, and it was very cute. It was pictures of Allison young, pictures of their daughter, and then pictures of Rod young. And it looks like Rod has a brother because we see another young
Yeah.
man there.
And also to
So
see them playing with their daughter. Like I think it's interesting to see Allison playful with their kid,
yeah,
which is really nice.
yeah. Anything else for them?
No, I have hope. I have hope. I mean, it's going to take a minute, but I do have hope. I feel a lot more hopeful now than I did at the beginning. And bravo to Allison. But to your point, like I think Allison just wants, and maybe that's because she's been out of her career and doesn't get reinforcement from her career. And although you're a wonderful mom, that's not the kind of reinforcement maybe that she at her core is looking for. So I think they said here that she's kind of calmed down a little bit, and so I'm curious what made that change. But good for her.
The therapy.
Therapy.
Okay, we'll take a quick break. Be right back. All right, we are back to Kyle and Mondo. This couple from day one, we have said they just need to split because I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Mondo says he has grown up with conditional parental love, which I do feel applies to a lot of immigrant families. I always say, like, it just comes conditional. As long as you do the things that you're supposed to do, you go to school, you get married, you have a kid, you do this. But as long as you deviate from that, then you find out that it's conditional.
Mm.
He says he grew up in a strong Christian background and he's Mexican, and him being gay was not received well at all. Like the first time he told his parents, they beat him and they told him no one would love him. And they even looked for a witch doctor to kind of, get the gay out of him. He said at the end of the day, he just wanted his parents to love him. Orna mentioned how in the beginning he talked about being a translator, and now she understands that he was also translating and distorting himself so he could have a relationship with his parents. And Orna asked, how does this show up in their relationship? He said all he has ever wanted was unconditional love. And then he meets Kyle, and Kyle gives it to him the way he has ever known it, which is conditional. Kyle gives an example and is like, "Oh, I remember when we were at a bar and a guy came to hang with us." And Mondo was like, "Hang with you?" Correction. And then Kyle's like, "Okay." And then he started paying attention more to me. Yes, I noticed that. And then we made out. And, Mondo was at another bar. And then he's like, I just felt safe. I'm not hiding it from him. Like, we're just here. And then Mondo just turns around and was like, huh, that's so interesting because I disagree with everything that you just said. To your point of what order we are watching things, I'm not gonna lie, at this point, I'm like, how did we go from his background and conditional love to a guy at the bar and then making out with him? I did not get the correlation. And I'm like, where are we going with this? And then Mondo says, like, well, there was a racial element to this. And it's almost like he has to remind Kyle that he is in a
Mhm.
biracial relationship. And has Kyle ever noticed that whenever these guys come up to them, that Kyle is usually the focus? And Orna says something. Orna is like, yeah, part of being white is you don't notice
You
things.
don't notice? Yes, that's why. Orna, tell it to their faces.
She doesn't mince words. And
No.
Mondo says, yeah, part of what happens is like when people they get approached, he becomes the person in the background. He's not being noticed. And as a brown person, the guy addresses him as this. He does a gesture, but the gesture is basically like dismissive. Like he's just like, maybe like in the back, the help in the background. And he was doing like a sign, like looking him up and down. And he's not being addressed or being acknowledged takes him back to when he was younger. And he says when this happens, he just retreats because he just wants Kyle to enjoy it. And he's like, oh, is this the right time, to say this or to bring this up? And he's like, no, it's not. And I'm like, why not? Why is this not the right time? Like, when does Mondo get a say in their relationship? This is my question.
No. And it's so strange to me that although Kyle is not an ethnic minority, like he's a person with disabilities, or he's a person that lives with disabilities. As a deaf man, he understands to some degree being othered. And the fact that I think at one point they said that a lot of the men that Kyle hooks up with are deaf men. And so the fact that he didn't have a reaction, or he didn't clock like, oh, hey, this is a totally different thing that Mondo's being left out of, that didn't click for him. But the race thing, he was like, oh, that's weird. I'm picking people that aren't like you. Yes, you're picking people that aren't like him on two fronts. You're picking people that are deaf, and you're picking men that are white. Like, how much more rejection could that obviously be in Mondo's face that you've never noticed until now? That's so wild to me. You're so focused on yourself and what you want and what you need and where you feel comfortable, that your partner is uncomfortable on two fronts, but you were so focused on yourself that you did not care about it. That's wild to me.
That is wild. I think that's a good point. But the thing I was just focused on is like, Mondo is saying that he's being dismissed with the people who approach them. You are being dismissed in your relationship by your boyfriend. You are not being seen.
Right.
Like, I don't understand why Mondo is burning himself to keep Kyle warm.
Ooh.
When it's supposed to be.
Look at that metaphor. Okay.
When it's supposed to be two people. It just sounds like, Kyle has the power. Kyle gets to do whatever, and then it doesn't matter because Mondo's gonna be like, okay, as long as you're having fun, because he's saying, I think he was saying it's not the right time to bring it up, but it's like, because I want Kyle to be fine. I want Kyle to be okay. And it's not like I want you to be okay in terms of like, oh, take your vitamins or be healthy. It's to make out with another guy. It's to have sex with another guy. And I'm just, what are we doing here? But Orna says this is a conversation that they need to have. And it's a conversation of how do we keep each other included. I don't know why you're saying each other. Mondo is doing everything to keep Kyle included, including all the extra people who are included in their relationship. So it's a Kyle, how can we keep Mondo included in your relationship and apparently your life?
But it was also work for Mondo to not retreat. Like, what is your alternative to when these things happen and you're being so hurt, instead of just stepping back and letting it happen and watching it and being hurt more, or using your analogy, being burned? What are you doing to stop being burned? And so that's Mondo's work, is to address it when it's happening. And the theme of this episode seems to be about learned things from the childhood and going back to the conditional relationships with Mondo's family. Like, yeah, he put up with some stuff. He put up with being beaten with a Bible. He put up with being the black sheep of his family because he was gay, to stay in his family. Like, at no point did he say, or later, much, much later, he says kick rocks to his family. But it took many, many years of him just absorbing all of this abuse to stay in these relationships with his family. So it makes sense that he would do the same thing with Kyle. It doesn't make sense to me, but it makes sense to his learned behavior from his childhood, that he would stay so hard, like, this is my person, this is my family. I'm going to burn myself to make sure my family, that I get to stay in my family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, our last couple, Nick and Katherine. I'm surprised they're still here. I'm not gonna lie to you. At some point, are we gonna lose them? I don't know. This is like 3 episodes left, but Nick is having a tough time being here. He keeps talking. I don't. They keep going back to this ayahuasca experience, and I'm just wondering if it's helping or if it's hurting, because I don't know if they're doing like a comparison of that experience with therapy when I think they're two completely different things. So he says that during the ayahuasca, he had these shocks, and the shocks were with negative thoughts. And even now, he still has them when he's thinking about, certain things. And as usual, he's not making sense. And as usual, Katherine has to step in and make sense of what he's saying and is carrying the load for him, and says, like, the thing is, his mom died from Parkinson's, and she just feels like it's so related. She says she feels Nick's mom in him, and there's something deeply similar about them. Nick says, like, she's right and correct, but you guys, I'm saying, like, oh, she's right and correct. Nick doesn't say it that way. Nick takes 20 minutes just to say, I don't know. Well, I mean, she's right, but I don't know. But at the same, I don't know. I don't know. So, you're welcome. She says she's right and correct, but it's upsetting because there's a lot of things he doesn't like about his mom, and he's angry at his mom for that. He said things like she had self-hate, and that led her to not accept herself, and in turn not accept others. And I'm like, there is a lot to unpack with Nick's mom,
Yeah.
because this is not the first time he said it, but at the same time, he doesn't want to disrespect her memory because she's passed. But I'm like, buddy, you're going to have to. You're going to have to
Yeah.
be honest. You have to be radically honest. Wade through whatever this is, because it's a lot and it's holding you back.
But it also has nothing to do with Katherine. Like, I think, and I made the same note that maybe you did, was that she feels like it's a second therapist in the room. It's like he gets to have two therapists for the price of one. And the advantage for him is that Katherine knows him very well. And so she can vocalize the things that he can't vocalize. And she knows him pretty well and has really, really good insight on him. And so she kind of connects the dots where he can't, and where Orna is like, I need you to fill this hole. But I don't know if that's necessarily fair for her. But that's what it feels like. I had a real tough time with her before this episode, but now I'm like, okay, I get where she's coming from, but I don't know if it's necessarily fair for her.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, because I don't know. It's true. But Katherine said, well, she continues and says his mom didn't give Nick privacy. His mom went through his things. What are you doing? Where are you going? And again, I'm like, what? That is not normal behavior. What
Yeah.
is the thing that is making her so obsessed with Nick? And it just reminded me of, I don't know, did you watch the TV show The Girlfriend
No, what's that?
on Prime? It's like a 6 episode show, and there it was Laura, not Laura Dern, the lady, Robin, Sean Penn's ex-wife, whatever, Robin Wright, yes, Robin Wright. She's on there, and she is, I want to say, obsessed with her son, but that's because, I mean, she lost a daughter, and then she just, was so scared for him to go into the world. And it was just like, what are you doing? I can do this. I will feed you. I will whatever. And then when he got a girlfriend, she just kind of felt threatened and is just so tethered to her son. So I'm like, yeah, I do know there's some moms that are so obsessive over their children, but for the fact where you're not giving privacy and you're going through things and you just want to be so immersed in his life, what is the backstory there? I'm sure Nick knows, but will not tell us, because everything has to be a mystery with this guy. And it goes back to what I said some episodes ago. Why did he sign up for this show? He's not
I
ready, and you
yeah,
have to be ready.
I'm guessing he didn't think it was going to be focused on him so much. I think he thought, oh, Catherine has all these problems. It's really about her. It's really about the money. It's really about whatever, that this is really going to be the Catherine show. And I get to be the good guy because I'm the one that makes the money. And I'm the one that, I don't know, is the rational one. And, I'm the dad that babysits my daughter. So I'm the good guy here. This isn't going to come back on me. And and like, just like Chad, like, I don't think people that go on these shows realize, no, this is going to expose some stuff about you too. You can't hide all the things that you're hiding, especially if you're so weird about privacy and hiding stuff. Why would you go on a show where you can't hide anything ostensibly?
He had to have expected it. It's called couples therapy, and he speaks a lot about this ayahuasca experience, which came with a lot over there. That had to be touched on. There's no way. But I don't know. Maybe he just thought he could slide. I don't. With cameras, you cannot slide, guys.
But they keep
So
trying. Look at Matt from Maps. Matt from that season that we covered on Maps. Like, why did you go on the show? You were hiding all kinds of things. What did you think was going to happen? I think there's some people that think they're smarter than the process, and they really think they're going to get away with stuff.
that's crazy. He must not have heard about Orna before. Catherine says that's why. Note, guys, I've said a lot of Catherine said, but we're talking about Nick. Catherine said that's why the college thing felt so violating to him. And she even noticed it early when they were dating, that he was always like, trying to keep his stuff, like, why are you doing this? And he felt like, you don't go through my phone. And she thought that he was hiding stuff, but she didn't realize that it was because of his childhood and how he was raised and how his mom was just always in his business. Orna brings up, why that he mentioned earlier that at the ayahuasca, they had to pull things out of him. And she was like, why did they have to pull it out of him? And he says he felt like he was present and he was like, please take this thing from me, take it away from me. But they just couldn't. I was like, even in your subconscious, you are hiding stuff. So they couldn't. And Catherine asked, like, or was it Catherine or Orna, like, what was the it? And no, I think Orna asked, and then Catherine again had to interpret. And I was like, it's like a lot of anger, a lot of shame, grief. And he's just like, he doesn't want to have the conversation, that he feels uncomfortable and he feels like he's about to have an anxiety attack. And like I said, my frustration remains that Catherine is who's taking it for him. He is unwilling. I don't know what his goal was. I wish they had shown us, like, I don't know, maybe we saw it and I forgot. Like, Orna just asked them at the beginning of every session, like, what is your intention or what is your goal or what would you like to get out of this session that we're having? And I'll be interested to know what his was, because I don't know. He's not giving anything and I don't know what he wants. But he asks to take a moment. He leaves the room and Orna just tells Virginia, when she's talking to her later, that he's in a lot of pain, but that pain is hurting both of them.
Right. And that's where, like, maybe you need your own therapy. Nick,
Yeah.
like, all of this stuff that Catherine has to exert her energy to interpret and speak for you and find out and discover and hunt and whatever, like, that's a whole, no wonder she doesn't work. She's got, her job is to decode you.
Mm-hmm. The interpreter. Like, she's the
Right?
interpreter. She and
Right?
Mondo need to get together
If
and
only
do
they
that.
liked each other that way.
Okay, so that was it, for this episode. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, it's still like a almost 30-minute episode, but it's like there's 3 couples now. I mean, Boris and Jessica was a huge chunk of time, so they're going to be filling it with more time with the couples, I guess. So we'll see how that goes. Did you have any final thoughts?
No, and I, maybe this always happened, and for some reason I'm a dum dum and just started catching on to the theme that goes throughout the episode. So I'll be curious to see what the theme is for the next episode.
Okay. All right. Before we leave, can you share with people where they can find you, Jenn?
Yes, we are in Thailand and living our best lives. So while all you guys have snow, I'm so sorry for all of you. It is extremely warm here in Thailand, and so you can catch our adventures on Instagram and YouTube at jns.adventures.
Okay. Guys, you know where to find me. It's also called MAFS on all of the socials. Please give me a 5-star rating if you're so inclined and stay subscribed so you don't miss out on any new episodes. Until next time, guys. Bye.
If you're a podcast host, listen up. This one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle. And I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.